welcome to the last segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed in the Memorial Arena in Victoria, BC on Tuesday, May the 12th. I'd like to thank again the volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes the show happen. Our guest in this segment is Mazin Al Nahawi, and we're going to be talking about Al Nakba, which is the catastrophe. So thank you, Mazin.
Thanks, Jack. This coming Friday, it's the 15th of May, which is Remembrance Day for Palestinian for Al Nakba, which, as you said, mean catastrophe. And the problem is, in the same day, it's a celebration day for the colonial settlers who occupied Palestine, and now they call it the Israeli state.
So it's the anniversary of Israel.
The independence, which is actually was only just the theft of the Palestinian land, expelling almost more than half the population. Imagine a country, half of its population became refugee to make a place for European colonial settler, but many of them at that time, as you know, the Holocaust issue is also, it's part of that. So because of the Holocaust, Palestinians ended up paying for the crime which European did. So instead of Germany, for example, cut a piece of land and give it to and create a Jewish state, because for what they did to their Jewish citizen, the Arabs and who are ending up giving a big chunk of their land. Actually, Palestine, it's in the size of New Jersey, and that it was in 1948. The word catastrophe, it's really important here, and as in the previous interview, I mentioned that Einstein himself said the same word, and Einstein, in a letter he sent in the 10th of April in 1948, just 35 days before Al Nakba, he said the following: when a real and final catastrophe should befall us in Palestine, the first responsible for it would be the British, and the second responsible for it, the terrorist organizations built up from our own ranks. He's talking about Jews in that case. I am not willing to see anybody associated with these misled and criminal people. Einstein was not a unique case. The majority of Jewish Orthodox are against the Israeli apartheid in Palestine. It does not fit with the Torah or with the rest of their religion. And we don't need to forget that the Zionist movement itself was a secular movement. So to carry the banner of Judaism is kind of another awkward things here.
It's almost, I mean, you know, it's almost as if a part of the reason for World War II was to murder the Jews, not allow them to go anywhere except into Palestine, and create a sort of puppet state of whoever's running the world in order to destabilize that region and just create a problem, which is exactly what it did.
I'm going to mention just a small example to show the hypocrisy, especially of the U.S. The U.S. built a museum for the Holocaust in Washington, D.C., and actually on the top of an area belonged to indigenous nation, Konoe Nation, which was decimated and slaughtered by the British in 1623. On the same spot, they built the museum for the Holocaust. Now, we need to remember that the Americans themselves sent money to Hitler. Their corporation, they aided Hitler. They were all the way working with them until when the Britain suddenly decided to go to war, then Canada and the US followed. But in the beginning, Hitler and Mussolini, like in case of Mussolini, he was getting paid from he was 22 years old by the IM5, the intelligence Britain. They gave them money to when he was a radical young. The same thing to Hitler. They manufacture all these Nazi and fascist state. And later, they built a museum for the Holocaust. If they learn anything about the Holocaust, they will know that never again it's for everyone, not for a certain group of people, and the rest you continue doing the same old colonial policy. So coming back to Palestine, the main issue in Palestine, it's, as we say, it's colonial, settler colonialism, and it's a very unique colonial style. Example of that, Canada, Australia, US, Algeria before, South Africa, and Palestine. The French did the same thing in Algeria. They consider Algeria as their extended land on the other side of the Mediterranean. They brought the French and they pushed the indigenous out. And they stayed there for 100 years. In the end, they were kicked out. Unfortunately, in this land here, we know what happened to the indigenous. By 1900, there was only left of them 250,000. It's supposed to be around 115 million people. Now, that is a genocide on a high scale. But the problem is that when it comes to indigenous people are not considered as normal people, they are terrorists or savages. Actually, the colonial British settler who, when they came to the US, they called the US in the 17th, 18th century as Israel.
Hey, you told me that. So you're saying that when the British
colonial settler, because they consider themselves, they're Protestant, consider themselves the children of Israel. Their trip during the sea is like Moses when he lost in the desert, the promised land.
So maybe this was one small group of the people who came. Certainly not the whole, because I've never heard this before.
The Protestant in general, the whole Protestants believe that this land was a promised land given to them, and they believe that they are children of Israel. And they call the indigenous as Canaanites. Canaanites is, Canaan is the name of Palestine before becoming Palestine. So there is a similarity here. The biblical myths been used from a long time to allow the European colonial settlers to go around and steal any land they want to, because they are, it was given to them by God. The other people are not really worth to take this responsibility.
Yes, it's... So, I heard a speaker from Palestine,
Mazin
on Pacific.ca, and I mean, I was embarrassed when I was listening to him, because our lack of education about that part of the world, it just befuddled me that I know nothing. Even after all the information we think we get, we know nothing.
The whole story, Jack, is about money, about oil, gas, and mineral. And in the case of Palestine or Syria, because Palestine, it's always been a province of a small part of a bigger motherland called Syria. And this is what they don't say about that. As I mentioned before, in Sykes-Picot in 1916, the French and the British divided Syria to 4 chunks. So it's the colonial history in order to conquer for resource. It's the story. When anybody tell you Arab and Jews conflict, and this is really stupid to say because Arab are nationality, Jews are a religion. We have Arab Jews and we have, so we can now you say conflict between Arab and Jews. And when they tell you Shia or Sunni, everybody mention these reasons or just bring these stories. They are either ignorant in the history, they know nothing about what's happening, or they have agenda to cover up for the colonial ongoing process of the theft.
So the people always got along pretty well.
This is basic in history. The Palestinian Jews and Muslim and Christian, they did not have the problem European Jews have in Germany or in France. And by the way, even when the Second World War finished, many other countries like Ukraine and Poland continued their genocide and racism toward Jews because they consider them Semites. They are not German, not Polish. No, they belong somewhere else. That's why they have to go. Like when you say now the Muslim in the US belong to Mecca or Saudi Arabia, and they have to go. And that could happen later. I mean, and now the way they are talking about Muslims,
It's terrible.
it's the same way Europeans used to talk about Jews. Did we learn anything? I mean, just take the word Muslim out and put Jews or a Christian.
Well,
and
the
see
people
if
who run the
become
world
acceptable.
learned a lot. Now they do it even better. They create anger and hatred with their lies and their media, and they try to pit us against each other.
And again, the only solution for Palestine, or I think anywhere, is to have a secular democratic state belong to all its citizens. If we have that, then the whole ideology of Zionism will be dismantled. There is no need anymore to create a Jewish state on a stolen land from indigenous people. And the Palestinians suggested that from a long time ago. So
It's a sad story of our history and who we are. But I think we've got to do better, especially at this point in time when the whole history of the future of humanity seems to hang in the balance. We've got to do better.
there is one quote. It's from the Zionists themselves.
But we're
Oh,
give
no,
it
what?
or else give it to us in
Okay,
20
it's
seconds.
Jabotinsky said
We're out of time.
on a time. Okay, we'll do it next time. No worry.
Thank you, Mazin, and thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.